Welcome to LYLAS. If you grew up in the 90s and you know what that stands for, then by default, this podcast is for you.
What's up, episode 50?
1-5, still at it. And I can't believe it, actually, that we are still doing it and that we're actually doing the first one in the same room.
I know, sitting right beside each other. For those of you who don't know, we've literally been trying to get this to work and we're semi there. So we apologize if there's some quality issues, but an hour and a half working our own tech. Here we are.
We're just figuring it out, guys, and we're not doing a very good job, if we're being totally honest. But we've been laughing a lot at ourselves because we are so, well, I thought I was like decently tech savvy, but this has been such a humbling experience trying to connect all of these devices to one computer. We have about 15 cords running between us at the moment. We might get tangled up and just be tied together.
Right. Cue like that Indiana Jones movie where he gets like dropped in like the pit of snakes, like when we were kids. That's what we're living in right now. Pit of cord snakes. That's exactly what it looks
One of the
like.
most random connections of all time, but I follow. I follow.
Gosh, so we thought that since this is episode 15 and so much has literally happened within all of our lives, that we just kind of use this as like an update and a check-in, accountability, just kind of seeing where things are going.
Are we walking the walk, not just talking every week?
Yeah.
So I think, we were just talking about listening back to the episodes. And so I listen to the episode each week before I post about it and put it out on social media. We're currently playing the Botox episode. I think it's episode 9.
Yes,
Does that
ma'am.
sound right?
Mhm.
And I'm really enjoying it. I find it so interesting the people that my friends or just people I come in contact with that have listened to the episodes and their feedback. It is so appreciated and just like genuinely warms my heart. Some of like the men that come up to me and they're like, I love your podcast. I'm like, you're not even our target demographic. The fact that you're listening and that you give a shit to hear what midlife mamas are talking about, like I just really appreciate that. So it's been really fun, but also too, I think it motivates me to keep doing the work. And I had posted, I think last week, the episode about diet culture
Mm.
and that I'm committed to myself. I'm committed to moving my body every single day. I'm committed to my meditation practice. And I'm just really proud of myself. Like I fell off the wagon between all of the spring break
Mhm.
vacationness that's going on. I fell off track for about 3 days. I mean, I still meditated, but I just didn't hit all of my daily rituals. And I got right back on the horse today and got all the boxes checked. And it just, that consistently showing up for myself, consistently coming back to the practices that I know are making me the best version of myself. And this podcast kind of gives me motivation when I'm not feeling it. I'm like, you know what? You cannot get on here and talk about mental wellness if you're not taking care of yourself. Bottom line.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And you use the word consistency, which was your word
My
for the
goal
year.
for the
Yeah.
year.
Yeah. And you are totally doing it like all the time. Like whenever you posted that picture, I was like, yes.
I'm trying. I'm really committed to
Mhm.
myself and unabashedly, I don't even know if that's a word, um, unashamed about the fact that I'm actually putting myself first and really focusing on myself, which is hard as a
Mhm.
mom, as a wife, as 40-year-old, just as a woman in general to say, that I'm just taking care of myself. And I think I'm doing a pretty good job of taking care of everybody else. But like I come first right now as far as like my mental wellness goes. And it seems to be working.
Well, I think whenever you do that for yourself, it automatically has that ripple effect too out to your family because then you are being your best self and then they pick up on that and it just emanates from everybody in your circle outward. And I think that that is, yeah, that's what we all have to be doing, the whole time, us walking and walking, talking the talk for sure. For sure.
And noticing when you don't do those things, how your attitude changes,
Mhm.
your opinion of yourself changes, all of those things. But really, even those 3 days that I didn't do it because we were traveling, two of them were travel days. So long travel days, and then Easter, I was just really enjoying the time with my family, and I just didn't do my practice. I think I meditated, but I didn't work out, like I just, or my movement, not workout, but like moving my body.
Mhm.
And that's okay. Giving myself like that space and not being like you're a loser.
Yeah.
You didn't follow through, but like just getting right back on the horse. I think that's the most important thing, is giving yourself grace for not hitting the mark every single day, but also just saying, you know what, that's okay, because that wasn't, I was focused on something else that day, like getting home safely, or, traveling and trying to like enjoy that time with my mom or my kids, whatever
Mhm.
I was doing. Um, giving yourself a little bit of grace when you miss the mark a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's so important, because if we don't, then those healthy habits that we're trying to put in play then become unhealthy in terms
Mm-hmm.
of our connection to them. And then we obsess about it, or then we attach other values about ourselves to it. And that just doesn't work. And so
Yeah.
totally having that grace and seeing that in those moments you were practicing good self-care, you were practicing, what you needed to be doing at that kind of point in time, I think that's all the same thing. It's
Yep.
all
Other
the same thing.
priorities. I did meditate in the Nassau airport,
Nice.
like full on, just did not give a shit. I was,
Love it.
legs up, full meditation mode. There were like a million people around. And, just also coming from like a place of not ego. Like I really just genuinely don't care what people think about the
Mhm.
weird lady in the corner meditating. I just, I'm like, this is me and this is what I need right now. And I got a long day of travel ahead. And so I got to
Mhm.
get my mind right. And yeah, also just operating from a different standpoint, not worried about what other people think.
Yeah, that's a good point. And on a different thread, but also something that I've taken away, I think I've mentioned this on one of the episodes. I've started eating all my meals with chopsticks.
I love that.
Um, Again, and it was just came out of like the awareness to the slowness and the mindfulness that really puts as a focus on your meals. And it does help to ensure that you're eating just what is, needed for yourself at that moment. But it's one of those things where, again, I mean, it doesn't matter what restaurant I'm sitting there eating at, the chopsticks are coming out with the purse. And
Yeah.
so if
No
y'all
shame.
are looking, then keep on watching, because I've gotten real skilled at these little things. And
French fries with chopsticks.
yeah, cheese
Anything.
enchiladas, anything.
That's hilarious.
No,
No shame.
salads. If they use a spoon with it, then my rule is if they use a spoon, I use a spoon. But if they don't, like whenever we were there, if they didn't give you the utensils in order to eat with it, then you just don't have them. And so that's kind of been like my rule.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah,
I love it.
every little thing. And then I do think you're right. It does, us doing this, as we kind of talked about, it's not just um it does have that level of personal accountability to it.
Mm-hmm.
That we do kind of keep each other in check. We watch what's doing, but then it does make it different for us as being the preachers, so to speak, for us to also be consistent in what we do. And so the daily movement, I think, is something that, I've always kind of done, but I've done it with greater intention,
Mm-hmm.
I think. And, we both use, which I think is cool. We both use different methods in order to do it.
Right.
You use the Melissa Wood, excuse me, Health Network, and I use a Better Help app that
Mm-hmm.
does like the wall Pilates that was coming up on all my feeds and everything. And it's just whatever works for each of us.
Mm-hmm.
And staying consistent to that routine, um, being that image for our kids and them seeing us kind of do this stuff. I just think it's really, I think what we've set for them is a great example, even before we started doing this podcast. But I think that our devotion to always bettering ourselves is greater. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's really important too. And so we've done good.
I think so.
Mhm.
My mom and I had a long talk yesterday. We were in the car for a long time, so we had lots of chat time. And we were just kind of discussing the last couple of years. And I was like, I feel like I've been on like this path of self-discovery, and like things have unfolded over the last couple of years that have really forced it in some way, but also, just given me the opportunity to
Mhm.
sort of explore. I've always wanted to become the best version of myself. We always joke like we didn't want to peak too soon. And I don't think that I've reached my peak yet. I think, that I've
Mhm.
continued to become a better person, but ultimately I want to be the best version of Jenny, like
Mhm.
whoever that is, whatever that looks like. And just being committed to trying to fight for that. And
Mm.
it is a fight some days, especially with mental health. And I'm not ashamed to say that. Like I shared earlier in an episode that I have gone off medication. I did go get back on a medication recently, kind of like playing with the dosage. It's not quite right, but I recently, like within the last week, started to experience more anxiety, like kind of almost getting back to like those panic attacks. And I'm finding that the things I've put in place are definitely helping. It's not totally eradicating it. So I know that I need to consider, the medications and what's right for me, because it impacts me so much. But I have been able to use tools to sort of work through those moments and remind myself that worrying about something you have no control over is not going to change what you're worrying about. And that's a big one for me. Like, and when my mind starts swirling these ridiculous thoughts, just knowing that, reminding myself that just because you're thinking it doesn't mean that it's true, and that worrying about it's not going to change it. If that's going to happen, that's going to happen anyway. And I can't, be concerned. And my thoughts are, completely unrelated to anything going on in my life. When I'm getting anxious, it's totally centers around like a completely separate topic, things that normally I would never think about. So it's really interesting for me when those feelings come up. And like this morning, I was feeling super anxious, and I was telling Sarah, like, I think it's coming off of all these highs, so to speak, like a really fun family vacation, traveling with my mom, visiting places I used to go when I was a kid, being back in my hometown. Like, it brings up so much emotions. I have so much emotion tied to, early experiences. And so I was feeling super anxious this morning, and I was just reminding myself, I'm like, of course I was like, my heart's racing. And I'm like, no, I feel anxious, like labeling that too, not like, hey, you're about to have a heart attack, but like, you're feeling anxious and that's what it is. Okay. And what do I do when I feel anxious, and putting those things in place? So it's sort of really identifying it, saying it to myself. It seems to be helping me work through those moments, because ultimately my goal is not to go back on long-term medication. That's just a personal goal I have.
Yeah, but I think it's so brave that you are willing to, at least in this moment, kind of a thing, or to do that self check in. And that's kind of, again, what we're doing here is a little bit of like a self check in, like where we're at. But for you to do it and be like, hey, I need to pivot just a little bit. Some people don't even take that opportunity, and I just think it's a really amazing thing that you did. And to not see it as a setback or to see it as anything else, it's just like, hey, balls change, games change,
Right.
pivot time. Let's just continue to play the game. And I just that's the most admirable thing I think that you can do for yourself, is pivot in those moments in which you need to. And that's beautiful. No, I think that whenever you told me about it, I was like, well, that's great.
Yeah.
Whatever you need, girlfriend.
Right. I mean, it's just, I appreciate you saying that. It's such a tough decision, and certainly people don't talk about it, but I think there are a lot of people that take medications, and you have to do what's best for you. If you can't enjoy life, if you can't live life, if it's actually impacting your daily routines and what you need to get done, then you have to consider your options.
Yeah.
But it also takes time. I'm not one of these people that go on medication for 2 weeks. Like, I give it a solid 30 days. I go back to my doctor. We have a full breakdown of what I've experienced, what's helping, what's not. And then we go from there. Like, I really work the process, as frustrating as it is, because it is incredibly frustrating and time consuming. I'm willing to work the process and see it pan out, and see what happens. Like, at this point, I feel like I'm probably on too high of a dosage. And so I'm going to consider backing it back down, and you got to consider, okay, so that means, that's also going to have an effect. But you have to, be willing to try things and be honest with yourself and with your health team. That's all I'll say.
Just in general, for sure. As you were talking about this, I was thinking like just in general, because our practices are a little bit different and people do tend to feel like that they've failed whenever they have to go on medication or when they have to go back on it. But we don't treat mental health the same way that we do physical health.
Right.
So earlier, I don't even know if you noticed, but we were messing around with our tech because we're real tech queens here. And I went downstairs and got myself my little orange juice.
Uh-huh.
Why? Because my blood sugar was dropping.
Yep.
Does that mean that I'm a bad diabetic for allowing my blood sugar to drop? Are we punishing ourselves for taking care of ourselves? And so for me, getting this orange juice is the same thing in a way to going back. It's something that's helping me. It's
Right.
keeping me alive. It's improving my quality of life. And so no judgment, whether it's mental, whether it's physical, metabolic, whatever, it does
Right.
not matter. So I just wish, I guess, in our society that we could move more towards that just relative acceptance of that we're all just trying to take care of ourselves, no matter what that is, and that me taking care of this is the same as you taking care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Both have bad consequences if they get out of control.
Right. Right.
Both trains can derail pretty quickly, but I think it just comes down to us being very aware and very forgiving and always working towards our health and whatever vision that looks like for ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Mental wellness, physical wellness, working towards the best version of ourselves
Andy.
with what we've got.
Yeah. Speaking of working, big changes there too, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I was kind of settling into being a stay-at-home mom. And I think I had said on one of the previous podcasts that my husband lost his job in the beginning of February, which, again, everybody's like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, we're fine. We're fine. And just because I think I have some just good luck in general, like lucky girl syndrome. I had a colleague reach out about a week later offering me to cover for her maternity leave. And so it's very non-committal. It's 3 months and it's in a completely different system than I've ever worked in. It's also not like a district job, which I'm also very excited about, just to work for one school. But also just to get back into it and say, like, do I still want to be a school psychologist? Is this still really the career path that I'm looking for? Or am I going to do a total pivot? And I think this is the perfect setup. I'm so grateful for the opportunity because I think it's genuinely the perfect setup for me to figure this out. So I'm really looking forward to it. I start back almost after we get back from spring break. I'll start, and it's just part-time, but I'm excited about it, which is really good considering how much I hated my job when I left it at the end of last year. So just the fact that I'm excited to try it and to get in there and to, kind of like flex those muscles again. I haven't used for about 8 months now. See if I can remember what I'm supposed to do. I'm excited. So
Yeah.
change there.
I think it's so cool. And I think you're right. The environment that you're doing in, the timing of all of these things, like it just comes together at an optimal point for you just to, again, have that time of reflection, rediscovery, and just to kind of be open to seeing what happens.
Yeah.
From all of it. So,
how is your transition going?
We're getting there.
I feel like you're working less and less and less. Little here, have to there, off on this day.
Yes.
Do you feel that way?
Yes. And it is all very intentional. And again, it's very open and transparent. So it's not something that I'm keeping a secret or that no one, especially most importantly, my patients are aware that I'm transitioning out, because some of them I've had literally for some odd years, and it's not even like we're deep in the woods. It's just sometimes people come to you once every 6 months for accountability. You know what I mean? Hey, I just want to make sure I'm still good. Or sometimes they'll be like, hey, some great things have happened, I just wanted to come in and talk to you about it, or something else has happened and I just want to check and make sure that, I guess, my judgment is still good, or that I'm still on the right kind of compass path, and as if I'm the one to say whether you are or not, obviously. But we are. I think that definitely the goal would be by hopefully around summertime, because that's when the nugget is out of school and the demands at the house are going to be much greater. But I definitely think that I will be out by August, if
Like
not
completely
June.
out?
Completely out. Yes.
Okay.
I've actually
Stay-at-home mom.
Stay-at-home something. Yeah.
Part-time podcaster.
Right. I'm going all in on this whole podcast. Every moment that I have is basically spent doing something random for the podcast.
It's true. You are a force Thank God. I mean, you are, because let's face it, I can slack with the best of them.
Oh, I see. I love it. And I think that in my mentality, I've now transitioned this to kind of being my job.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do spend every day I'm committed to doing like one touch. And so one touch for me on the podcast is talking to somebody about the podcast. I'm committed to extending. And so that means I'm extending its outreach to somebody or something. And it's not just because I think this is fun and we get to hang out, which is all, I mean, the best
Part of it.
Oh
Let's
my
be
gosh,
honest.
it's been like the best 4 months ever. But it's also because we really have received a lot of good and random feedback.
It is.
And thank you all. I mean, it's so amazing to think that we at this point have around like 900 downloads, which is pretty good.
Way more than we expected. I thought if we got to 100, I would be thrilled. Then we hit 250, 500, 700. Like, it just keeps climbing and pretty consistent week to week with the amount of downloads. So it's just exciting that somebody's out there listening to us.
Yes.
And that hopefully it's making some impact, and we're going to continue on with some awesome topics. But today we just felt like a cool check-in. We are actually, right after we record this, going to go do a little photo shoot where we met in 1994.
Oh my God.
Almost 20 years. No, almost 30 years ago.
Oh,
is that right?
Oh, don't do math.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, you're
almost 30
right.
years ago.
Oh.
Suddenly I can't. Yeah, 30 years ago.
It's been a
anyway, and we're gonna go do a photo shoot in our middle school, and I can't wait just to like have those memories come back. We were just going through an old yearbook from middle school, reading what we used to write to each other, and
Stay cool.
Stay cool was a big one. Never change, which hopefully we all changed some, right? We're all trying to grow and develop, and I think we consider ourselves lifelong learners. So I'm hoping that we have changed. But yeah, it's been so fun. I love rolling down memory lane. I know it's not for everyone, but I'm just so emotionally connected to our past, and I enjoy stuff like this. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, this will be interesting. This will be the first time that I've been in that building in a really long time, but I'm very thankful that we got permission and that we've been granted the chance to kind of go back to where all began, huh?
I did. I even put on your old cheerleading skirt today.
You did?
Somewhat. I mean, of course it wouldn't zip. But it brought, it gave me that little bit of joy from when I didn't make the cheerleading team, and I was just devastated. You talk about like the first real devastation of my life was not making cheerleading team in middle school.
Oh, God.
No hate, no shade, but some people made it that shouldn't have. Let's just say that.
That is fair. That is 100% fair.
But
that's always the case.
We had so much fun just kind of going down memory lane. So it will be very interesting to go back to where it started. Although it doesn't look the same now. It's a pre-K building,
right?
But
we've got access to the hallways. We got access to the gym. So
the gym.
We've got the place where things happen. Maybe the locker room. Might go check out that from our track practices and everything else. So yeah, we'll see how it all kind of ventures on that way. But so we're transitioning our jobs. We've been on some trips. We've talked about that.
Yep.
We've been consistent in trying to hold to our routines. We've got new things coming up with the podcast. Always continue to check on our website because we're constantly loading resources, blogs up, all kinds of fun stuff.
Yep. And most of that is big thanks to you. Sarah keeps me on top of it. She's like, all right, here's your to-do list. Have you got this done? Which I need. I personally need somebody like that. Like, I'm great, but I need somebody to be like, hey, this is what I need you to do. Here's your task list. And I can generally do a task list. But sometimes like big projects, I just get overwhelmed, don't know where to start. And you're really good at sort of delegating, if you will, or just being like, okay, I'm going to do this today. Can you handle this? And like I said, we're really consistent with our recording, with the exception of the 2 weeks we were on vacation. When you were in Japan, I was in the Bahamas. We've recorded at least one episode every week, most of them 2 episodes. So we've been really consistent with that, which again, just goes back to holding ourselves accountable. And it's ultimately what we're trying to do is model the topics that we're talking about, model the
Mhm.
practice, model, putting yourself first
Yeah.
and showing up for yourself every day.
Mhm.
Because ultimately, I do believe that that's one of the most important things that we can do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And I think us being vulnerable too has been really cool and I think probably beneficial, not just to ourselves and to each other as our friendship, but just, I don't know. I just think that opening up and having points of vulnerability, whether it's about me struggling in my like role as a parent,
mhm,
or, the whole kind of, I'm going to probably have some moments where like my identity, like what do I do now kind of comes into play
mhm.
whenever I'm not at work at a job that I report to. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
24/7, because again, I can think anything is work and get it done. Um, but I just think that us having openness to that, whether it's about our parents aging too, or the
Mhm.
loss of a parent. I mean, we've done some deep digging.
Yeah. We've done some deep episodes. We got some deep topics coming up too. I mean, just some ideas that we've thrown out. I'm like, there's some heavy stuff here. I'm gonna need to get my mind right for those.
Mhm.
But putting it out there, I mean, it's hard. It's still hard sometimes. But again, I think it comes from operating from like taking your ego out of it and how people are going to perceive you or what they're going to think of you. Like if you're still operating from that mode, then
Mhm.
you're not really, speaking your truth.
Yeah.
You're going to, in some ways, not give the full picture, or, you're just going to be concerned about how people are going to perceive you or what they might think. And I think we're doing a pretty good job of just saying, well, you may not like this, but here's our thoughts, or here's what we have to say. So,
Yeah, I really like the fact that we're pretty unapologetic about it. Or like in those some of those moments, I'll be like, I'll look at you through the camera as if you're sitting right next to me. I'm like, man, I probably shouldn't say this. And then I go, oh well, here we go.
there we go.
We're going to do it
It's
anyways.
going to resonate with someone. Not everyone, but someone.
No, that's right. So I guess in close, what are some like three big things that I don't know, maybe one thing that you hope people will continue to get out of the podcast, one thing you've gotten out of it, and then just where you're at.
I think it's been interesting because it gives the opportunity to have these conversations with people. So, whether it's like, just friends, acquaintances, they'll say, I heard this, I really like this episode where you were talking about this. It just kind of opens the conversations. My mom and I had several conversations. I find myself saying to people, well, we just did a podcast episode on this, or we were just talking about this on the podcast. And so just the opportunity to talk about tough shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like it happens. And if you're not talking about it, then you're stuffing it down and you're internalizing that. And it doesn't go well. Take it from me. Speak it or you will regret it later. Big lesson that I've learned. So just, I think opening conversation and not being afraid to talk about those things. Um, I don't know. What's one of yours?
I think it's along the same thread. I think it's just really important to take down walls. And vulnerability just keeps popping into my head as like the word I want to use for right now. And that just means that we don't always have to have that kind of like strong face or strong facade, or we do, but it can also have these other facets to it
Mhm.
too. So kind of like a diamond that you can look at and it can be rough and tumble or it can be nice and polished. It's the same thing at its point in composition, but um it's going to shine no matter how you turn it. And just being willing to see that kind of side of things, I think is important. And so I think the things I've heard the most is like, especially on comments like on our Facebook page, when people send it in and be like, hey, I really related to that, or thank you, or messages that get sent through others to us.
Mhm.
Like my husband last week got a message
Yeah.
from somebody and actually texted us all
Yeah.
at the same time, including Jen's husband. And it was like that one of our friends, his girlfriend and her daughter and mother, and I guess another friend all get together and have like wine night and listen to the podcast. Like I never ever would have thought that that would
Yeah.
have happened, but they said that it's just that to think that people of so many different generations and walks of life can come together like people used to, like whenever these, like, I don't know, War of the Worlds, you know what I mean, on those
Yeah.
old radios. But instead it's us and they're sitting there listening to it. Like, I can't think of a greater compliment that somebody could have given me.
Right. No, that was
Yeah.
so sweet that Jeff said that to all of us.
Yeah.
And I think my husband made a comment recently. He said, you make me sound like such a nice guy
Mm.
because he always listens to each episode. And he's like, you just make me sound like such a good guy. And I'm like, well, you are a good guy. Like, I'm not saying anything that I don't 100% believe or know is true. Like, you just are a good person. And maybe that's hard to take
Take
compliments,
in. Yeah. Mm.
I'm like, but everything I'm like, you truly,
No, he's great.
you either make me feel that way or that truly is, my perception of you. So,
which is both good.
yeah.
And it's 100% right.
Siri trying to run
There's
our
some tech issues coming
yeah,
back
see,
in the way.
always something gonna go wrong.
No, but I do think that that's definitely true and that he is. So Jeff, here's your validation. You are a wonderful guy. Wonderful guy.
He is. They both are. They're both great guys. We're so lucky to have them. They're super supportive. Shout out to them for being at least 2 of our downloads every week, and our mom. I'm pretty sure Jan's listening. I know Barb is. When she's walking on the treadmill every morning before work, she listens to our podcasts.
Oh, well, she should be real happy to know that a picture of the 3 of us that are at the beach is sitting here on my desk. So there you go, Barb.
Number 1 fan.
Right. No, that is something. Thank you all to our parents, from our spouses to our kids. Cameron listened to that one episode that I talked about him and, kind of made a little post, and then I had to do the mean moms vibe back to him. But we just really appreciate it. And so thanks for listening. Thanks for continuing for your comments, for your suggestions. I just look forward to this is what I see. This is where my love for psychology has kind of fallen back into. Mm-hmm. It's not within that world that I had been functioning. It's in trying to do it in this manner. And so I'm thankful for that. And I don't know, I'm just thankful for all of it. We're having a fun time. We are. New experiences coming, which means it'll be more content for us, more topics for us. But we're always open. So if you have any suggestions, anything you would like for us to cover, please send us the message on our Facebook page. You can go to our website. There is a comments or contact us box that you can get a hold of us that way as well. Just feel free to send anything in. We're open to all ideas. Check us out on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, although we don't really upload to TikTok. Yes, I haven't figured that out real well. But yeah, check us out, social media at LYLASpodcast.com. And stay tuned. We got more stuff coming to round out the end of this season. So thanks for joining us. Until next time, LYLAS. Ouch, looky right here.